In number 16, again, we are graphing a function. This is an exponential function, growth, natural base of e. Let's look at our parameters first. We have a equal to -1. This tells us we're going to reflect over the x-axis. Our b value here is e, or the natural base. We have an h of 0. Notice there's nothing up there with the x. And the 3 that's added on the end would be our k value. Remember, it is our k value that gives us our asymptote. So we have an asymptote of y equals 3, which we can immediately put on our graph. And label. Okay, we're going to need some data values to go with this. And when I'm working with e, because e, remember, e is approximately equal to 2.71. It's actually 2.718. Because we're working with a decimal value there, I usually only have a couple of x input values. I usually try to work with -1, 0, maybe 1, and 2. Okay? And we are going to work with kind of general numbers here, approximating, because we can't be too accurate when we're graphing anyway. So if you plug in -1 for x, you're going to get 1 over e, which is 1 over 2.7. If we said that that was 1 over 3 approximately, that would be -1/3 plus 3 is about 2 2/3. This is very approximate. I only approximate like this with e when I'm graphing. 0, put 0 in for x. E to the 0 is 1. -1 plus 3 is 2. Put 1 in for x. That's e to the first, which is approximately 2.71. Opposite of that, and add it to 3, and we get approximately 0.3. If you plug in 2, e squared is about 7.4. -7.4 plus 3 gives us -4.4. Okay? Let's go ahead and let's graph those values. -1 is there. At -1, we're at 2 2/3, which makes sense, very close to the asymptote. At 0, we're at 2. At 1, we're at 0.3. At 2, we are at -4.4. Okay, let's put a curve nice and smooth between those points. Okay, notice that mine is touching the asymptote. It really shouldn't even do that. It never does actually touch the asymptote, although when you're drawing the graph, sometimes it's hard to make it look like it doesn't. Okay, notice our domain, as with all our exponential functions, -infinity to +infinity. Our range, remember, we always go least to greatest. It's always going to include the asymptote, but the asymptote may not be the first value. In this case, we're going lowest value, -infinity, all the way up to the asymptote of 3. And we already identified the asymptote over here.